Hey, good evening. I will call to order the Lincoln City Council regular meeting. Today is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. It is 6 p.m. And if we could stand, please, for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Get the roll call this week. Winston?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Arcadia?
Here.
Kingmaker?
Here.
And Mayor? Here. First, we have approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have first, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
A second, any discussion? I actually do. I would like to move to amend the agenda to add Apex Engineering, wastewater treatment facility design and bidding to follow the number 8 City of Lincoln project updates. And then renumber accordingly.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
First by Councilwoman Davis, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Shoemaker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. Next, we have the consent agenda. Underneath, we have the 10/9/25 council minutes, the October 14th special meeting minutes, the September statement, and the October bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
First by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Bjornstad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved. Now is the time for public comments. City Auditor, have there been any submissions? Okay. So I will ask now if there's anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment. Second call for public comment. And third and final. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, the public hearing for Turkey Meadows final plat zoning annexation.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Before you, we have a number of considerations for Turkey Meadows addition. Would you like to vote on each one as we go, or would you like to both go through everything and then vote at that end? Do you have a preference?
Vote after each, I think, would be appropriate.
Okay. The first item we have is consideration for approval.
I apologize, we're just going. So if we could get a motion to open up to
I forgot that. I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
first by Councilwoman Davis, second.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Bjornstad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and so moved. Note that it is 6:04.
Thank you, Deputy Auditor.
All right. Development applications. The first item we have for Turkey Meadows addition is an annexation consideration for approval. The application documents were included with your packet. The area is a 4.56 acre parcel located at 52nd Street Northeast in section 19, township 138 North, range 79 West. General location is behind Dollar General. Currently described as the north 300 feet of Auditor's Lot B of the northwest quarter of section 19. There was a public hearing held on September 30th of 2025. The Planning and Zoning Board approved the application at that meeting. Consideration for the approval of the annexation of the north 300 feet of Auditor's Lot B of the northwest quarter of section 19 is before you, and engineering recommends approval based on findings noted in the staff report. Any questions for me?
I'm not sure that the annexation is before the council. And I think the council first has to approve the plat. And then if that property, once platted, is going to be annexed into the city, then it's either annexed through an agreement between the city and the landowner, through a petition that the landowner submits to the council, and then there are notice requirements, or through the council initiating an annexation by resolution, in which case there are notice requirements. There's got to be publication. The township and anybody else who has jurisdiction over the property has to be provided notice before there can be an annexation. So I think we should start with the platting, the plat approval, I think, is what should happen first, because we can't consider annexation of the property until it's been platted.
Makes sense.
I'll have to double check that, because my understanding from documents was that that had already gone through that process, but if you all are not in remembrance of that at P and Z level.
I don't believe that the property's been annexed. I thought what had happened was there'd been an application to planning and zoning for plat approval, and that after planning and zoning approved that, it's got to come here for public hearing for final approval, and then after that, there would be a process to complete the annexation.
Right, and I think that the question was whether we could post it for those two consecutive sessions or consecutive weeks at the same time it's going through the approval process of planning and zoning. Is this the same conversation?
No,
I saw some email about that, about whether or not we could speed the process by counting the notice for both, and I can't remember, I think Gavin fielded that, I can't remember, we keep count on that, but I think that's a separate issue. I don't have any problems with the plan approval. It's the annexation where there's we've got to follow the century code, and
We
there's,
consider the zoning too, right?
pardon me.
The zoning, it has zoning on here, consider.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, this is the plat and the zoning, but I think
Special permit, okay,
yeah, because those have been through planning and zoning and they've approved of them.
okay,
But I don't think we can do the annexation tonight. That's my point.
okay.
Monty, after this, can we talk about that process? Since it did go through planning and zoning on the 30th and had a public hearing for that. With
Right.
that set,
Annexation is done by the council. And it's
Right.
statutory, it's not through
Right.
ordinances of the city.
Right, and my understanding is anything that has to do with zoning has to go through our own public hearing, correct?
I think final plat approval has to have a public hearing at this level as well.
yes. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
All
But
right,
I think that you can't annex it until it's been platted. You can't, and the plat has to be approved after a public hearing tonight, so I think the next step then would be a petition by the landowner to be annexed through petition to that process, and then you've got to advertise that and have a public hearing. And then
what's after?
the annexation was
Yes.
to be provided to the township.
Yes. So we can go through them tonight?
I've not seen the petition though. That's why I'm confused. I've not seen a petition from the landowner to be annexed. I have what's in the materials here, but
When I had a little confusion too, because I thought that that was in materials from before.
Deputy Auditor, do we have anything on file for that?
The original annexation request was sent to Greg with Mountain Plains on the initial application. And then it was missed through going through the changeover, and so we had planning and zoning last month to approve the annexation or to recommend approval to the council. And covered the public hearing side. And then Tanya posted for the public hearing for all three of them, and I sent out letters to the surrounding addresses for notice of the public hearing.
Thank you.
unless we still need a written word, we're still going to need a written ordinance before we can move forward, with the annexation. So, I mean, we can certainly have the public hearing, and then I will determine whether or not that's sufficient, but normally we would have a petition for annexation that would be presented for the council, not to planning and zoning, because it's a council decision. And I've not seen, I guess that's why I'm confused. I have not seen anything. I have not seen that. Similarly, we have the petition for the exclusion, that we talked about at the last meeting. That's what I was expecting.
Okay.
I'll review files because I thought it was in the files from before. So if I find it in there, I will pass those along to you. And if not, we will move forward to get that taken care of. Would you like us to move on to the final plat as the next item? So the next item before you is consideration for approval of final plat for Turkey Meadows additions. Again, those documents are in your packet. And we are working through the annexation of that property, which is described currently as the north 300 feet of Auditor's Lot B of the northwest quarter of section 19. A public hearing was held for the final plat on June 24th, 2025, and the Planning and Zoning Board approved the application for final plat at that meeting. Consideration for approval of the final plat of Turkey Meadows addition is before you, and engineering recommends approval based on their findings noted in the staff report. Any questions on the final plat for Turkey Meadows?
Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Turkey Meadows addition.
Before we proceed, do we need to close public hearing before we do the motions?
No, because it has to be on public record. Right.
So
I thought we would be approving them one at a time after the review of the entire document, correct?
You have to close the public hearing and then you make your votes.
Yeah.
So we should probably just go through.
Go
each of
through
them.
all that. I'll ask for the votes.
So I'll move on to the next item, which would be consideration for approval of a zoning change for the north 300 feet of Auditor's Lot B of the northwest quarter of section 19. Again, application documents are in your packet. The zoning request is from the current designation as agriculture to C1 commercial. This item was held at the Planning and Zoning meeting on June 24th, 2025, and the application for zone change was approved by that board. So for this item, we are looking for consideration of approval and engineering recommends approval based on their findings noted in their staff report. Any questions on the zoning change item?
I do have a question. I see on the development application checklist, it's marked as a special use permit. Was that necessary with the zoning? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a model repair, the classification for it, so it's like why it fall into that line.
I guess I'm wondering if that's right for
So my understanding, which is part of asking for the special use permit, following this zoning change, is that, its service station was not specified under that specifically, but there is, service auto repair, that staff felt like it felt under, which is ordinance 90308, section 5, special uses as service stations.
Which if I recall, I think the city had to do the same thing with those over there, with the shop repairs, right? And had to be classified.
Yeah, I think that if I remember correctly, within the zoning code, within each of the use districts, there's a listing of permissible uses. But the way the code is set up, that if so we did the same thing with the cat cafe, if you remember, if there is a specific use that's not listed, the Board of Adjustments has some ability to add a use category. So for instance, for the cat cafe, it was like a pet store, right? And we put it in retail. I think that's what happened here, if my memory is correct, that there wasn't a clear use described in the code for what this is. It's not a filling station. It wasn't properly described, but the Board of Adjustment has the ability to add that.
I guess I would be in favor of approving this then the way it is. But I wonder if that's something that should be brought up to the Board of Adjustments to add that, because I feel
It
like
was
it was already brought up.
in June.
Oh, okay.
You guys did it. Yeah.
Councilmember Bjornstad, you're just getting ahead of me.
Thank you.
So I probably won't be able to answer some of your questions here. We get into, the special use permit request. That, assuming that you all approve the final plat, would be on lot 4, block 1 of Turkey Meadows edition. And the documents are again in your packet to request that special use permit. That request to build a service/auto repair on lot 4 of the plat would fall under city ordinance 9-03-08 special uses, section 5 service stations. And the request was approved at the Board of Adjustment at their June 24th, 2005 meeting. So engineering recommends approval based on our findings noted in the staff report. Just also to follow up on the documents that I found in the files, it did look like they had gone through that process and vetted it pretty thoroughly to add that item in the ordinance number.
Yeah, Councilman, I think that misnomer is that process is not a special use process. I don't know how to describe it, but there's authority within the code to allow the Board of Adjustments to basically add use descriptions for the code. But it's not a special use. It's technically not a special use.
Okay.
And that was my memory, is that the Board of Adjustments had considered that and had approved it not as a special use permit, but as a recategorization of that into the proper zoning category.
And I wonder if we couldn't use, and this is deviating a little bit, as its own checkbox. Is to have, rather than special use, do like a reclassification checkbox. Just for future.
I'll make note of that and we can take a look at that. outside of this meeting? Okay.
All right, any questions? From council? All right, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to end public hearing.
First by Councilwoman Davis,
I'll second the motion.
second by Councilwoman Artavia. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion? All right. It is 6:20. We're back in. We will carry on then to our voting. So the first up would be the consideration for section 19, the zoning change.
Do that or the plat first.
Just how it
The zoning from egg to C1. Oh, the plat on top is the annexation. So we're removing the annexation part of that.
And Madam Mayor, I'm visiting with the auditor as we're sitting here, I'm trying to figure out if proper notices had been given for the annexation. And the issue that I have is I've not seen a petition for annexation. I don't know if there's one in the file. But it looks like the auditor, deputy auditor did advertise this as an annexation and did do the certified mailing as if it was an annexation. But I've not seen a petition for annexation, so I don't know if the property owners here.
The application's not a petition, is that different?
Well, I think technically it might be,
The same, right?
pardon me,
The application would be the same, wouldn't it? I mean, what else would one do? I wanna be annexed, so I would apply for it.
yeah,
Wouldn't that be my petition, saying, hey, I wanna be annexed? I mean, that would be normal thinking, I would think. I mean, that's what I think.
I understand.
Okay, so I can come out there and not, I mean, I'm just like,
Trying
this
to
has
look
been
at
going on so long, I mean, let's not.
Yeah, you've been started June, right?
Oh, we started in March. Technically, we started 2024, we wrote a check already. So here we are, almost 2026.
All right, so
So
So the question is, do you have a petition for annexation?
there with that. Right, annexation,
No, no,
right? Okay, that's got my name.
yeah,
That's
all
not
right, so
engineer.
that's what you have.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a petition for
Well,
annexation.
Isn't that the application, what is this?
No.
Staff report, I mean, that's our,
No,
talking about annexation, though, I,
I understand.
yes.
The statute requires a petition for annexation that's signed by the property owners. It's a separate document, so
Okay.
probably the best the council could do is approve the annexation dependent on a petition being received. It appears that proper notice has been given for annexation, but we don't have a petition and we don't have an ordinance, so we need to have a written ordinance that the council can vote on and have a property description out. You can't do it through a voice motion like you're approving the plats. When you approve the plat, you have a document that's been signed by an engineer that can record. Without a petition and an ordinance, an actual written ordinance, we have to have something that we can go to court to demonstrate in the property records that this property has now been annexed into the city. And that requirement I don't think has been met. So, I mean, it's not an insurmountable issue, but I think the best you could do is you could approve the annexation subject to receipt of a suitable petition. Otherwise, we need to get the petition and then re-advertise it. I'm not in favor of doing that. I don't think we can get there, but we need to have a petition and we're gonna need to have an ordinance that's signed. So what I would suggest is that at least the annexation, we can have the public hearing tonight and you can approve the annexation with the written ordinance and the petition at the next meeting. That's what I suggest.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't go through anyway, but
right, so are we going to work on that? So then I guess we would entertain the motion for the approval of the annexation dependent on a petition being received and ordinance being presented at the next. That would be.
I would make that motion to work that out again.
probably.
unless that covered it.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a first by Councilman Ernst,
I'll second.
a second by Councilman Schumacher, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? And if we could get the roll call, please.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Martavia,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
and Berenstain.
Yes.
Can I ask a question, Council Mayor? Would it be beneficial to have a special meeting or set up a meeting before we have a regular council meeting?
I think it's already being approved, it's just the formality of the signing at the next meeting, so that the action is being
Right.
approved.
I was just, yeah, just making.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm.
Well, I think you have to have the actual ordinance in front of you before you can approve it, and we need to write it, so we can. This is as far as I think we can move things. So if you want to have a special meeting to move it along, that's fine, but we need to have a petition and ordinance, and I'll draft the ordinance. But yeah, I mean, we have to have some written record of what the annexation is, it's kind of a big deal.
Good question, thank you.
So what is this doing? And I guess my thought, we're approving the annexation, yes, dependent on these other things. What does that do, limiting or allowing the applicant to continue on with the process?
Or start.
Yeah, I don't know that I mean, he would be able to tell us, but I don't know that I think getting the plat approved so that he can get the plat recorded. And the zoning change, and he should be able to start, whether it's annexed or not.
Yes.
That's not as probably as crucial to you, I'm not assuming, as getting the plat approved and.
The annexation doesn't really affect anything other than paying
Yeah.
whatever taxes, right? I mean.
That was my point, right? So from a timing standpoint, whether we do it now or we do it in 2 weeks, I don't think that.
He's got the approval after
Yeah.
tonight. Just making sure that the process doesn't hinder him, from getting started, because it's already been a long time.
I can reach out with the county and find out if they have any hiccups. If I can't find anything in the file, then if there is some kind of issue with them holding things until that paperwork is done, we can let everyone know and we can make a decision at that time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, and then the next application would be for zoning.
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning for Turkey Meadows Edition.
Is that from AC1 to I9? Or that section 19.
It would be agriculture.
To
A1.
Yeah. I was like that.
Right, so we have a first by Councilman Davis,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Ernst, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved, if we could get the roll call for the most.
Ernst,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Martavia,
Yes.
and Shoemaker.
Yes.
And then next we have the final plat. Council,
I'd make a motion to approve the final plat.
we have a first by Councilman Ernst, is there a second? Second by Councilman Shoemaker, favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we get roll call for that.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Martavia,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
and Berenstain.
Yes.
And then finally, we have the special use permit request.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit request for Turkey Meadows Edition.
First by Councilwoman Davis, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Turnstead, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if we can get the roll call, please.
Davis,
Yes.
Martavia,
Yes.
Ernstine,
Yes.
Sancho.
Yes.
All right, and we've got the next meeting, we'll wait for you to report then the petition and we're gonna end. Sounds good. Thank you for your input, Tony.
It looks like the confusion was that I don't recall ever seeing a petition in that way. We just, yeah, we know now that we need to make sure that we have a petition and we're gonna have it.
We will make sure that it gets moved. Good, thank you.
All right, and I guess we'll stay up here for item number 8, the project updates.
Thank you. Council members, updates for you regarding projects. We have the wastewater rate study update. That project was directed to help adjust and look at rates to go along with the standalone mechanical wastewater treatment facility. The rate study is in a draft stage and was submitted to the city on Monday. That will help guide the city by making decisions on necessary adjustments to the sanitary sewer rates based on need going forward. The NOI, notice of intent from the DEQ for a continuous discharge permit was submitted on September 12th, and we haven't received any feedback. The next steps would be to work with the city to go through that draft model that was presented and include customer impact examples and usage tier, meter size information. We would also like to export that rate into an Excel file, which I believe they've already provided, so that we can share that with the Waterworth application. And that will assist with a comprehensive rate guidance. Any questions on that rate study project? Right. The other project we have to discuss this evening is the pavement management program. We are currently reviewing the draft report for that, so making sure that the narrative, graphics, and scenario-based recommendations are matching up with the data that we have been working with to make sure that it fits the community. On my first look at this, just that it was shared as the engineer. The rates actually came in much better than what we had anticipated. So I think that's a good thing to find, but what I'm wondering if the condition rating for the streets or the feeling of the residents and the people that drive the streets, maybe it's a ride issue and not so much an issue of what the condition of the streets are. So that's something that we've run into before, where the streets structurally are in really good shape, but the ride is poor. So it gives the feeling that the roads are in bad shape. So I think it'll be probably a good reaction when you see those numbers come back and how they're going to impact maintenance going forward, because I know that from my standpoint, it definitely came in with much better condition ratings for all the roads.
Could you explain what a ride?
So just basic what it sounds like. It's the feeling that you get as you drive down the road. It's bumpy and it just feels not smooth.
How does the road ride?
Yeah, just, is it?
She's like.
So it's not the structure, it's maybe the materials that were used or.
Okay, just like the surface.
It's just, yeah, just like the surface, just gives you not a very smooth ride, so. When you drive down a newly paved roadways, it just feels this nice and smooth. And sometimes when it's not that way, it isn't necessarily the construction or how. Construction's maybe not the right word, but it's not necessarily that the road is failing. Which is what we're finding, the thought going into this was that we have a lot of roads in Lincoln that we're gonna need a lot of work. And thankfully, that's not what we're finding. We're finding that structurally the roads are in a lot better shape than we anticipated. And so maybe the feeling that the roads are in poor shape might just be how they feel when you're driving on them. Is that clear? Yes, to you? Okay.
I was
We're
trying to
happy
make
to
it.
have a little extra good news. So that's good to hear.
I know I was pleasantly surprised to have that news shared with me so that I can pass that along to you. Next steps would be to complete that compilation and transmit that draft report to the city for their internal review. And then that process will roll into bringing it forward to this board. Again, I am asking for that information in an Excel file, which once we finalize is easy enough to produce out of the paper software. And we'll be putting it into that water board application to assist us with getting our rates comprehensively. I think the only item that we have left to build into that waterworks system is some capital improvement projects that we would be looking at, and then we should be able to run with it. And the goal is to get that done before the end of the year. I kind of got off on a tangent. So if you have any questions for me, happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, I will ask Carla Olson to step up. She is from Apex and would you share your information for us with regard to our wastewater treatment facility? Is there a remote that I should be using? Is it to advance slides? Maybe just say advance. Oh, okay. Someone gonna, okay. Next.
Somebody else can do it for you?
Yeah, Lincoln. Okay, well, thank you so much, Mayor, and council for having me here. My name is Carla Olson with Apex Engineering. And just want to talk a little bit about myself, our company, and what we think we can help you with this project moving forward. Starting with myself, I have been doing this for 25 years in wastewater specific engineering. I'll just keep talking while we find the right slide. So right out of college, I started wastewater, been doing this my whole career. So I've been doing this for 25 years, treatment and management of projects dealing with wastewater. I've been the project manager for pretty large projects throughout the state of North Dakota and in the region. The last 10 years, managing over $250 million of wastewater treatment projects. And that's large projects from 160 million down to $3 or $4 million projects. So a wide range. And I do a lot of funding, especially in the state of North Dakota with the regulatory agencies here, the North Dakota Clean Water SRF program, the state's DEQ. So I'm well versed in that area as well. And I would be the lead on this project. With me, we have a number of employees, 135. We started our company in Bismarck and Fargo, and you can see we've grown to 7 offices now, expanding throughout the state of North Dakota and into Minnesota. Next slide. We have a wastewater group, which is why I'm here tonight, but we also do provide other services. With a large project like this, there is some water resource carryover, electrical, environmental survey, and we have a lot of those in-house that we can provide as well. Okay. Next, I'm gonna walk through some of our wastewater specific experience and capabilities, just to hopefully give you a little comfort with what we've done and what we can help you guys with. So the next slide shows, I pointed out in North Dakota, our wastewater specific clients, and you can see western part of the state, Dickinson area to Minot, east to Fargo, and then of course in the Bismarck area, we do a lot of work on the wastewater systems for all of the major cities in the state and a lot of the smaller ones as well. I've picked out a few, just to highlight. City of Dickinson, we converted their pond system, so very similar to what you're looking at, to a mechanical plant, greenfield plant. They had an extremely tight timeline, because of growth and an industry there, and I think you also are now facing a tight timeline. So there's a lot of parallels with that project. And really them going to the mechanical plant gave them the ability to grow and kind of be in charge of their own destiny on the wastewater side and accepting future residents, industries, and those kind of things. The other project I wanted to point out is Vidora. They ended up sticking with stabilization or ponds. They went from stabilization ponds to aerated ponds. But the thing I wanted to point out there is, they really had some space limitations and odor issues. And there was we kind of stepped in after the facility plan level in that project as well. Ended up saving the city $6 million on our recommendation versus what was recommended there. So it's kind of a similar parallel, coming in at this point and kind of having new perspective. Next, Minot, they have a pond system and they're looking at a long-term plan to carrying over to a mechanical plant. So kind of slowly adding piping and infrastructure to bring them to a mechanical plant to match what their budget is. And that's a little more long-term than what you're looking at, but it's also kind of a phased approach, moving into the future. And then finally, Fargo, that was just ended up being $160 million project, regionalized, in the area with West Fargo and some of the growth going on there. That was the largest wastewater plant in the state and one of the largest in the region. So it's kind of a fun one to talk about and look at. So specifically, Lincoln, some of the things we've looked at for you, and again, we've been involved just for a short week, I think, but we have looked at a lot of the information on the table. Looks like, next slide, you're looking at a mechanical plant, again, sized for about 500,000 gallons a day. At the existing pond site, looking at a funding source with some grant money from the state and an SRF loan, all things that we've done. Actually, this exact funding source, with the grant money we're doing, with another community in the state right now. So looking first preliminary design, I think I would recommend just taking a little step back and looking at the actual treatment equipment recommended, determining a site layout, vet those treatment technologies to make sure that that package plant recommended is the right way to go. And we talked a little bit, Travis, Brandon, on, site visits and things like that, and really getting them engaged in the process to make sure that this facility is something that is gonna work for you guys long term, just because I think it's a great idea. You guys have to operate it and live with it. So that's a very important part that I think needs to be done here in the next couple months. Next slide. Then moving to final design, having those milestone meetings and input with the city, 60%, 90%, 100% design documents. And that input from the city and making sure we're tracking on what your expectations are. One thing we talked about, I know there's some grant money out there that needs to be spent by a deadline. Does it make sense to pre-procure some of this equipment once we get through the design stage? Just to make sure that that money is spent and allocated by the deadline out there. And, then bidding, advertise and bid, awarding contracts, and then the funding. Right now, I don't know if there's other funding on the table. What I was looking at was helping and assisting the city with a loan application, that pre-find application and PFA loan applications. I do that a lot with clients all through the state. And then there's the technical approvals with the Department of Environmental Quality. And then finally, I think this is really an important slide to look at a schedule. When we first started talking last week, I took a look at our workload and we had some projects push out further. So we do have a really nice window here where we could start immediately and get this project off the ground for you, if that's what you're interested in. We laid out a schedule that meets those requirements, getting the money spent, getting it allocated, and getting something started for you guys so you can kind of move into the future. Hopefully through this process, we can bring the costs down during the design and work with the city on, you know, coming up with a great plan to move you guys into the future. So hopefully that covers everything. Is there any questions? I know I'm new to the scene here, but I'm happy to answer anything you might have, or, you know, talk through anything with you.
And just to give you a little backstory to this, I had reached out to Apex because of the conversation or the meeting that we had regarding those limits of liability and whether SEH was going to be able to align with what the city attorney was advising. So from, I guess, Attorney Rockaby, if you have anything preliminary that you have looked at.
I've had a couple of conversations with Mike from Apex about their contract documents, and he provided a copy of their insurance liability. If you recall in the conversations we've had previously, one of the solutions that have been discussed, or the liability questions that the city had, was perhaps procuring a $5 million insurance plan, and Apex has $5 million insurance in place already. And subsequently, I do have copies of their contracting documents. I have not had a chance to go through those in detail, but I've had some discussions with Mike about what my concerns are and kind of following state contracting guidelines. I'm not anticipating that there's going to be issues that are going to come up. But I have not been through those documents, and I think after you're done with this discussion, depending on how you want to move forward, there's an issue with a conflict involving the local law firm, City of Lincoln and Apex, and I can discuss how I might propose managing that, but we'll get through this part first.
And so, you know, at this point, the discussion that I would like to move forward with is, you know, the design, you know, the possibility of signing an agreement with Apex to design. They fit within what our budget was. They have the limits of liability. And the time frame is actually a little better than what we had originally thought. You know, you can't anticipate what may possibly happen, ensure anything, but those are things that I'm excited to hear. So, any questions that council has regarding, in your packets, I believe you have the task order. And that would be giving authority to Apex to start the process of design for the city of Macon, the wastewater treatment facility.
And you think building instead of aerating, right, and keeping the cells would be our best option for the city in the long term?
I think so. That just gives you more flexibility and growth in the future. You know, ponds take up so much space. Mechanical plants, a smaller site.
Yeah.
You know, as you grow, as you're going to, it will allow you to keep expanding more easily than adding ponds, and that's going to become valuable real estate, you know, as the city grows. And
Right.
I think that's the way to go. Yeah. Now, granted, I've been in it about a week, so, but I did read through everything and it seemed reasonable to me.
And just as a point, I did forward the task order to our city engineer and asked her to review it. And of course, there are gonna be things that you maybe want to address, you know, depending on the way council decides to act tonight. But I have provided a copy of that to Carla to kind of take review, but I think at that point, whether if we decide to go and enter into this with Apex, then that would be a discussion for the engineers. Right. You know,
And that's common, we can, you know, nail down some of the finer details of the scope, certainly. You know, as we know more,
Right.
you know, as we discuss and what your needs are and, you know, whatever you would feel more comfortable with documenting, that's no problem for us.
And then you said you'd have about 60% of the design, right, done? When you show initially, right?
Yes, yep, I would envision getting through this preliminary design phase into early January. And that's where we really have the treatment technology nailed down and
Okay,
have input with the city, and then we'd launch on that design. And then have a 60% review meeting with the city. Certainly, we can do monthly meetings on top of that, of course, you know, whatever staff feels comfortable with and wants to be involved in. Even weekly Teams calls or however that works, so we're open to whatever you feel comfortable with.
what are thoughts of council?
And I see in my engineer's report that they listed, you know, any concerns seem to be just for being a little more detail on the funds and stuff. But beyond that, I like the price point. I like seeing the experience you have, very similar to what we're looking to do. So I guess I have no objections. Proceed from here.
is that a motion,
Would
Well-
you looking for a motion?
or do we need a motion?
Well, if we could get a general consensus, because then we'd have to have.
Yes, I would be in favor of digging into this.
I have no objections.
Whatever you're looking to.
And possible.
I don't have any objections at all.
Okay, so then
So I think that the next step would be to hammer out both the legal terms and the scope of work and working with me and the city engineer. An issue that we have is, I have one of my law partners who does legal work, has worked representing Apex on an unrelated matter out of our Fargo office. I don't work on that matter and have not and will not, and he doesn't do any work for the city and he will not. In my profession, some conflicts are not waivable, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't do all. Some conflicts are waivable if both clients, after they've been provided with the written agreement, agree to the waiver of the conflict. Identified this conflict this afternoon. We've had preliminary conversations, or my partners had preliminary conversations with Apex. They're willing to explore moving forward with the conflict, because obviously both sides have to understand what they're agreeing to. So I think the choices of the city are, I can be conflicted out and I can try to find a different counsel to review the contract, right? So that's the one option. The other option is the city can agree to the waiver of this conflict. We can prepare an agreement for the mayor's signature, a waiving the conflict. And I can then work with the city engineer to put together the contract documents. The risk, and then again on this, I can't give you legal advice about whether you should waive the conflict, right? So to the extent that you have concerns about this, that's another conversation about how to manage it. But I'll just tell you generally how these kind of conflicts waiver is. It would allow me to work on this contract representing the city. Obviously, I don't represent Apex, that they have their own counsel. If in the future there is you know, a real conflict. I mean, not just kind of like, hey, as city attorney, I have a question, whatever, but a real conflict where the city and Apex are on litigation or real conflict mode, then likely I would not represent the city and the Vogel law firm would not represent Apex, right? So that's kind of how these conflicts work as a going forward basis. I wouldn't suggest a waiver if I felt like it would, you know, my independence would be affected. Or our duty to Apex in this other case had been affected, but, so it's really up to you how you want to proceed, but if you want me to find counsel, I need to get the option started on that for you to have conflict counsel. If not, I can submit for the mayor to review a conflict waiver.
So I have a question, attorney, then, if we were to go with a different attorney, right, to look over the documents, you can't fill them in on what you already know, or can you? And then is it a separate contract, separate pay? How does that all work if we were to go that route?
So, yeah, I mean, I can be involved in helping whoever reviews documents get up to speed. I can provide them the Attorney General's contracting manual, you know, basically I'm trying to find someone who already has some experience with public contracting. The city would have to enter into a separate contract with them to retain them to work, right? So that would be a separate billing, but they would bill you and, you know, they would come to the meetings and they would take that over.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, appreciate it.
Any other discussion? Thoughts?
I don't have any issues with preparing a waiver. I don't see that there's enough conflict of interest to be of concern for me at this point.
I think I would agree. I think at this point, I'm comfortable with this forward, and if we ever feel that there is a conflict that comes greater on this, then we can always address it at that time.
Yeah, and that would be a key part of the agreement. If either side feels like it's, you know, not working, then either one has a veto on the continuation.
Okay, so, just for clarity, should we have a vote?
I would
On
appreciate
the
a
waiver?
motion to move forward with a conflict waiver.
I'll present a motion to move forward with a conflict waiver.
Okay, we have the first by Councilwoman Natalia, for second,
I'll second that motion.
second by Councilwoman Davis. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? And if we could get the roll call, please.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Fabia,
Yes.
Davis,
yes,
and Thurston.
Yes.
Okay, and so just to clarify, the direction then would be to move forward with having the attorney look through the agreement and continue on with the first wastewater treatment facilities preliminary design as presented to council tonight.
yes, right.
And what my intent would be is after we get the conflict waiver in place, I'll work with Loretta, go through the agreement, we'll have communications with representatives of Apex. And if we can work all of those things out and come back with a recommended agreement, we will do that. If we have issues that have not been resolved, I'll come back and I'll present those to you and say, here's where my concerns lie, or here's where the engineer's concerns lie, and, you know, we can have a conversation with Apex about how to resolve those. But obviously, as I indicated before, some of those are for you to decide, that we can't come to an agreement on the language.
All right, well, this
Thanks
is
for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Excited for the
Very
project.
excited, yeah, thank you. And again, on short notice, so thank you for working so diligently to bring this forward. And also next part now. So then we can carry on to the data center moratorium. Attorney Rockley.
Madam Mayor, as you recall, when you had this conversation probably about a month ago, one of the things that was in front of the council was whether or not the council wanted to put in place a moratorium on data centers, and I don't know if there was also, some other areas where we don't maybe have comprehensive zoning in place, and I wanted to take a look at what the city's authority that. What I can tell you is not 100% clear what the city's authority to do that is. Sometimes in North Dakota, we don't have as much public law as we would like, but the city is a home rule charter city, and my opinion is that that authority within that status would confer on the council the authority to put a moratorium in place as it develops more comprehensive zoning on some of the other public political subdivisions have come to that conclusion already, but I'm satisfied that there's enough support in North Dakota law for you to have that ability.
Perfect. And one of the things that I had just briefly discussed with the attorney before we started tonight is that the League of Cities is currently working on what they are referring to a conditional use ordinance regarding these AI and data centers that the cities would be able to amend and to fit the needs of their individual cities. So they are doing the legwork on that, and that is expected to be within the next couple months, a final version for the cities to possibly adopt, which then takes that off of the city's purses by having the attorney look at those. So we could fit those for final review and then forward them on.
Awesome.
So what I'm understanding that you're saying is that the League of Cities is working on something that would be a more permanent type ordinance that we could
Yes.
essentially use a form of.
Yes.
And so, but we could move forward as a city with moratorium until we get something more permanent in place.
We don't have that.
No.
No, we have not.
No, because we didn't.
Oh,
Didn't
So,
know.
yeah, what I would suggest is that makes sense, right? To do, I think Burley County has one in place. I remember seeing a draft of one. And the idea is to freeze. Be careful how I talk about this in a public meeting, but to freeze in place the idea that we aren't going to be open to certain kind of development until we have more comprehensive zoning in place. So I do recommend that if you have a real concern about somebody moving in the meantime, that a moratorium would be a way of protecting from having that fight.
And one thing that I would ask is maybe because data center AI is not necessarily something on our radar or on the radar for the city of Lincoln, that allowing the League of Cities this couple months, you know, because they're finalizing it right now, maybe waiting for a couple months to allow them to finalize theirs and not ask the attorney to spend that time developing the moratorium, you know, pending that, which would then allow him the opportunity to work on the contracts or wastewater treatment facility.
Mayor, I would like to speak to that, please, if I may. I think that in recent news, we see that there is a lot of movement from AI and data centers within the state. There's a lot of interest, there's a lot of movement, there's some concern, and I think that a moratorium would be really a wise thing to do in the meantime. And we wouldn't need for our attorney necessarily to reinvent the wheel, but rather we can use what's already in existence for Burley County and ORA.
And okay, so maybe like 3-4 months ago, I brought a draft of a moratorium. Has anybody at the council looked at the revision and brought that back?
I think it has been brought back, that in different forms, including the Burley County and the Apple Creek Township ones have been in our packets.
My concern is this, that we have an attorney who has a lot on his plate. Not on his plate. He isn't the city's full-time attorney. He works for a legal firm. And something, and I don't know if maybe some juniors would be taking a look at that moratorium, but we've already, by the time we have hearings and the time when the focus is going to be on contracts, to then be paying for the work on the moratorium, which would probably not come before council for another month or so anyways. And at that point, we'd likely have an ordinance available. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, but priority wise, you know, we don't have the land acreage to even put up a data center. I don't do any development or anything like that, but I don't know that there's land for sale that would maybe constitute an emergency, not emergency, I hate to say that word, but that the benefit of having the focus on contract to get the wastewater treatment facility maybe to take priority over something that may possibly sometime perhaps come to us.
Which is why I think council mayor has looked at this prior, right, to a few meetings now, and I just don't think we fine tooth combed it quite yet and had a great analysis look at it. But I don't see any forums or any reason on why we couldn't adopt Apple Creek or even Burley. We don't have to change it. We literally just have to adopt it. It's just pausing it, really. We're not changing anything. He doesn't have to write up anything. I think at the next meeting, it should be acceptable and okay for us as a council to just adopt either Lincoln's or Burley counties. We all have both of those pieces of information as well that we can look over to.
Yeah, I think Burley Counties, if my recollection was, I think, well done. It would have to be, I don't remember if Bismarck's done one. I know the first meeting where it came up, I took a look at, maybe it was that would here. It would need some attention, but I don't. Mayor, I think you're being a little optimistic about how quickly we can get zoning changes in place. And here's what my concern is that whatever the League of Cities adopts is going to have to be layered into Lincoln zoning. And as I probably inartfully said last week, Lincoln zoning is not quite as well developed as I would like it to be. And so I think that is going to maybe present some challenges and might require some work by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, I mean, I don't know how, I'm not advocating for a moratorium. I don't know how imminent it is that we're going to be facing this kind of development. But I think getting your zoning in place that address that type of development is probably going to take several months after we get the drafts. It's not going to be a two meeting process. I think it's something that the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to have to work on, and you're going to have public hearings and some other things because zoning is a little bit harder to change.
Okay, so if we take a look at what was presented previously, would you be able to have that?
Yeah.
Or do you need something from council?
No, I can take early counties, and in fact, I won't do it. I'll assign somebody in the office to just modify it. I don't think that should be a time consuming, and I'll prioritize I understand where the big issue is with the wastewater contract. I'll prioritize that so that keeps moving, but I think either Gavin will be able to work on that, or we've got a couple of associates that I can think. It's a matter of just tailoring it to our code.
Okay, and my concern was not that we don't need one. My concern is wastewater treatment
Yeah.
facility and making that the priority. If somebody else is able to do that, then better that. So,
I will prepare a draft. If there's some issue, I'll let you all know through a memo or something, if there's an issue that comes up, but I understand what you want.
perfect, thank you.
Appreciate it. Good day.
Yes. Will this be on the next section?
We're gonna be commit to it.
Has to.
And all the.
Thank you, attorney. Really do appreciate it.
And we'll continue on. Yeah. The employee pension resolution to revenue.
Yes, so, the deputy auditor might be able to speak to this better than I can. So how this issue came up several months ago, that the city has money in a pension fund. And initially, the goal was to repatriate that money out of the pension fund by ending the pension system. And so I drafted a draft resolution to do that, and now this week, we have more information which has put what we thought we were doing all into question, so I will let you address that.
Yeah, so when they, the council, sorry, mayor council. When we had initially, Lisa had tasked me with finding out what the employee pension fund was. When she did the 24 budget. So looking into it, couldn't find anything on file besides the council minutes saying that they put a mill levy on the employee pension plan in 06. And that was it. There was no record, there was no manual, there was nothing else stated about what the employee pension it was, what kind of plan it was, who it was with, nothing. And then to come to find out that we started with ND PERS retirement in 1997. So that employee pension that they requested, the 5 mils, was actually for ND PERS retirement, not an employee pension plan. And so what happened is somewhere in between an auditor requesting 5 mils for an employee pension plan, which was the ND PERS plan, got entered as a pension plan. Because we can't go back to the records that far in our system to see transfers out, transfers in, anything like that. The only thing we could see from budget histories is that there was some interest put into this employee pension plan on occasion. And from my understanding is because they did that in 06, that it was meant to go into ND PERS, not its own fund. And another auditor created an ND PERS account under our general fund. So it's all basically on how you interpret it, how you read it, how you look at it. Different people look at it different ways. Somebody called it employee pension. Somebody said we have ND PERS, I'm gonna call it ND PERS. So it needs to actually be transitioned or close the employee pension fund because it's a standalone fund. And just put it into the ND PERS under our general fund.
Well,
Everybody did that?
Fun.
Any questions?
And so this is how far we got yesterday.
Yes, I got the contract for my ND
Yes,
PERS
and
because
I
Monty
got
wanted that.
4 emails with all of this, and that sounds correct. But before we give, I wanna make sure that they didn't pay PERS out of a different fund and then put money, I think we want to do a little due diligence, because
300.
300, yeah. So it's not an insubstantial amount of money, but anyway, so I initially, when this was on the agenda, I thought what we were going to be doing is formally ending the pension fund under the Century Code, which there's a statutory method for doing that, and repatriating that money. And I needed a little more information to finish the resolution, and now we have more information. So rather than take it off the agenda, we just thought we'd update you on this, and I will have an answer for you, but I'm not gonna tell you it's gonna be in 2 weeks. I'm gonna get this other stuff done. This is not a burning thing, but we will come back with hopefully some clear answer of what's supposed to happen with the money, and I just want to make sure that we don't transfer money out of the city that we shouldn't be transferring out of the city.
And so will we be taking this off of the agenda?
If you could take it off the agenda until we have a more solid recommendation, but we will come with the recommendation.
And to clarify some information, there have been some questions about what are they, like the city of Lincoln doing, stopping our employee pension fund, and we're not gonna get our money end up in such a panic with past employees that had been vested with us. So there's quite a few calls and questions. NPPERS, or the retirement fund, is paid into every month. So the money that is there is not the actual money that is to be paid out to employees in the future when they retire. That is, the money is paid monthly to them, so they already have all the dollars.
Yeah, it's, I think, one of two things. It's either that city mislabeled this account and paid the money to PERS from general fund, in which case this maybe we do. Or we owe PERS money, which you don't think is the case. So I like the idea that we could. That's what we want to verify before we do anything.
Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we will carry on with agenda item 11, open records. The policy and procedure open letter or open record request, policy and procedure. I had drafted a little bit last meeting or 2 meetings ago, and the city attorney was kind of to remind me that we need to make sure that we align that with the Attorney General's manual for open records. So I went ahead and did that, incorporated those. And you'll see reference to different century code in here. And this is just basically doing exactly what is being done currently. Somebody comes in and has an open record request, whether that's phone, email, sending a letter in, whatever. I see the work being done already.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, the request does not have to be in writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Did I put in here that?
Under paragraph 2, requests must be submitted in writing, and that's not it.
And then you
Where
have
is that?
mail.
It can be in writing, but it doesn't have to be in writing.
Oh, must be, okay.
Yeah,
Take out must, yeah.
Yeah, so because my understanding is it could be even a text or
they call.
anything like
Yeah.
that, so.
They can walk in and ask for the record.
So this covers all of. How about we say it allows us to discuss and see if we like it for final review, then to go to the
Sounds good.
attorney for, well, this is just policy and procedure. It has nothing to do with anything legal. So it's just, if somebody comes, it's nice for whoever's answering the phones or discussing with one of the citizens to say, okay, this is the procedure that we use when someone has an open records request.
Great information.
So, I will take out the must and change that to may be submitted, email, mail, city form, or phone call, however that, or etc. So, if you've got currently on here, it has the fees for 25 cents per page, black and white. They can be charged by color versus black and white if it is necessary or whatever. So take a look at it if there's anything you want me to change with it. Otherwise, we could have this adopted with removing must and doing that may. Is it the date of today?
The only thing I would ask, probably the attorney to answer, I know the city can charge based on like so many hours that you could do it. Is there anything restricting charging for like paper? Like copies?
I think this has it.
Copy.
There is something about copying and printing costs and also data retrieval time. But I don't know off the top of my head what that amount is, what the only. It's not required, but the only thing that I might suggest is just also to reference. The Attorney General's open records manual. I mean, this is, I think, an accurate summary of that the Attorney General has online. A pretty comprehensive manual. Okay.
Such a lot of fun looking at that. So I will.
Would be they have a summary guide as well that is available, but I mean, I think the city should have a policy that we train on, you know, whether it's this or the AGs, it doesn't matter as long as they're accurate and consistent.
Excellent. Do we need a motion?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
I think it's just an agreement on. And whether it would then be forwarded to the auditor to distribute to staff. Or have available online. I could
I
put on.
think it should
there
definitely be online as well, yeah.
Okay, so I will make reference to. The Attorney General. And remove the must. And then.
Otherwise, I don't see anything else that stands out to me.
Looks good. All right, so I will do that and then. Get that to. You. Thank you. So number 12, third party staff and grade update. Councilor Jennifer.
So I reached out to a company called PLN Consulting. And they're located in Dakota, they are named and they do consulting work for exactly this type of thing where they assess the city's employees' salaries, step and grade. We need to be in the marketplace to be competitive, to reduce turnover. They actually just completed this type of election for Beulah, North Dakota. So in Beulah in 2022, had a population of 3,044 people. They currently have 5 police officers and 6 public work employees. So they are familiar with assessing smaller cities to figure out where we need to be competitive and keep our great employees. So yeah, I'm waiting on a bid to see how much it's going to cost to do this. It's an extreme amount of money and there's no point, but it would be nice to see how kind of we compare to smaller towns. Not so much fun, it would be nice, but the rural mission with somebody else our size. So I'm waiting on a bid to come in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for the update on that. Next, we have Councilman Junstad with the employee take-up vehicle.
Yeah, I believe each of you have in your packets, policy 703 and policy 309. I haven't had a chance to actually review this myself. The chief finally was able to get this put together. He used the average and stuff. See that bottom thing? There's a program, Lexipol, that essentially sets up policies like these. And they have attorneys that review them and make sure everything's kosher. And the chief was able to utilize a lot of what they have, and then he used some of the policies from like the city of Bismarck's police department regarding like the K9 vehicles and a few others, and kind of compiled this one for the Lincoln Police Department. He told me that he had forwarded on to the attorney. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it at all.
No, I have not had a chance to review it. I don't remember seeing it, but that doesn't mean you didn't forward it to me. So
Okay.
I have not reviewed this.
Okay. So I don't think anything necessarily has to be done tonight on this, but more so just getting this information out so we can look it over. If we have any questions or concerns, we can bring it up. I'm guessing you guys probably haven't had a chance to look this over, considering I haven't even had a chance to really look this over. So please take time to kind of review it, see if anything stands out to you as being a concern or anything like that. And once we kind of have everything fine tooth combed and make sure that the attorney doesn't have any objections and policies in place, so.
So would you like us to take a look at this and maybe bring a marked up copy
Yeah,
at the next council?
yeah, we want to come to the next meeting, and if there are any concerns, you know, we'll get it on that.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Next, beautification. When we started discussing this, I had thought what might be advantageous for our ordinance is to have something specific to residential property standards. To make it easy, because, you know, as we all know, that our ordinances are a little difficult to navigate sometimes. And having one central location where we address all of those things might be nice for the community. And this is a sample draft. Nothing more than that, just to start the discussion. So again, we could either, you know, take maybe 10-15 minutes, take a look at this, or take it home, look at it, whatever it is that you would like to do. There will be changes to the ordinances. There are affecting, you know, we'd have to go through 5, 8, 13, and
At least read them all.
right, oh, 5, 8, 9, and 13. So I did highlight those, so there would be amendments that would have to be made to those. But rather than going and putting forth the effort into changing or doing amendments for draft, find out if we're going to be using that or not. So anyhow, I personally, because this has been such a hot topic and discussion, would like you to be able to have some discussion tonight, but understanding that we've received a lot of information in our packets, so you might not have taken or had the opportunity to take a look at some of this.
I have a question, Mayor, Council, for the number 5 landscape rock under section 502. It says, or crushed fines are not considered landscape rock. What are we talking about? What is that?
Those are the little particles. From what I understand of that, those are like the dust particle. Like shades or little particles that can form to make a hard surface composite. Right. So and
So
maybe
if
you
it's
have a
crushed-
better way of explaining. It, I looked at it like when you put down pavers and you put that sand type of thing and you wet it and then it becomes hard.
Right.
That's what I see as those fines.
So technically fines, basically how you were saying it, but excuse me, technically fines are defined by a size. So like, you put a bunch of gravel on screens that have different sized holes. Anything that passes through, I believe it's 3/8 inch hole is considered a fine. So that's anything small, which is what you are all talking about. So I think you're on the same page with the little pieces,
The
dusty
type of thing.
clay, dried clay, yeah, you
And
got it.
and I don't like the word fine in there because then you know just see
Right.
pressure to be your fines. But in that. I had to look it up, so. That's what that's on that for finding foundation. Material.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we definitely need to look it over and come back with what our findings are. Thank you, Mayor.
And I do want to bring attention to this section 5.6. That no more than one inoperable vehicle may be stored outdoors per resident lot. I do want it stated for the record, I'm not saying you should only have one vehicle. That is just a common something common that's other communities use that, so if you're working on a vehicle. You have one vehicle that's not working, you're fixing it, maybe that's what they're talking about, I did not come up with that number, I'm gonna say we need to have that number. And it's just a standard that other communities use.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Mhm.
So. From a kind of a fitting this into the code standpoint. Before the council were to finalize this, I would wanna look at whether or not there are other sections of code that need to be deleted or modified. And I have some concerns over currently how this reads for grandfathering, and not expressing an opinion on how you apply it. The way things are now, just how do we put it in the code in a way that accomplishes what you want, whatever it is you decide you want. My thought is that I'd let the council develop this a little bit more as to like, what do you want the standards to be, not focusing on how it's gonna fit into the code or some of that technical stuff, but just what do you want to do? And then once you've reached some consensus on that, then Gavin and I would probably have to figure out how to make it fit into your code. I mean, none of that's insurmountable. But I wanna make sure that we're not creating additional problems. Right, I mean, that is somewhat it's a little bit like a ball of string, it's all balled up, you start pulling them a thread and it's all tangled up, and so. That would be my thought, is that. The council should really come to a consensus as to what you want. This to look like, and then we'll get involved in that process after you've done that, that seems acceptable.
Yes, oh, definitely.
You know, because some of these concepts are, you know, how you like instead of grandfathering people, maybe you might apply the code on a going forward basis to all new construction or any, you know, significant remodel, or, you know, anytime someone has to pull a building permit, then yeah, you know. And again, the city of Bismarck some of the cities have this already in place as to whether or not you have to bring things up to the existing code or not.
Right. And I think I put that on number 4, that loss of status. That if they do replace, remove, alter. But of course, I mean, this is just to start the conversation.
Yeah.
And in nowhere,
We just have to figure out how some of these concepts fit with some of the other things that are already in the code that aren't in the residential area that might be, you know. If you recall when we did the annexation and then the developers agreement, we wanted to change seasonal use so that grandfathering would continue, right? So I mean, there's some of these concepts become somewhat complicated, and we just need to be very careful that we don't create more problems.
perfect. And so I guess we'll do the same thing then as with that, take home vehicle, let's take a look at that. Take a look at this and bring recommendations or thoughts to the next council meeting, and yes, we'll start filling it in.
That's a homework.
And then,
Is the specs one go back?
well, this was one, it would have to be because we don't have definitions for fence or safe triangle. And we started this about 2 years ago now. discussions on that fence. And
What housing gonna say behind this?
well, now we know, when we do all of it.
We do have something in here, if I remember correctly, Greg and I looked at this.
25 feet. 25 feet.
Yeah, but there was something and it was in more than one place on the code and so. This was an example of once you start pulling on a thread. And maybe what we'll have to do is create. In residential areas.
Yeah.
Because there was another site triangle in industrial areas and. If you have one set of definitions and it applies in multiple places, it becomes more complicated. I mean, again, none of this is. We could find a solution for it, but I remember at the time there, it was just like, how much do you want Greg and I to start revising the code to address these issues? Because my recollection was that once we started changing it here, then it made sense to change here and then it changed over here. And we thought, look, let's wait until we have a more comprehensive view of what you want.
And one of the other big topics when we're talking about the fences is whether it was the fences couldn't extend past the front of the house. Well, does that mean the front of the garage or does that mean the front of the home, the front door?
Right,
So-
well, we already changed it to where it was accepted, right?
Well,
When
we
we
were
were
stopped because it was this affecting different areas, so we were supposed to be looking at that. We just haven't explained it back then, so that'll be part of it, but that's where that was. That'll be part of it. Now, carry on to attorney report.
I don't have any more, I don't have anything else to report.
Okay.
Well, I should say that I don't know that it was on the agenda. There was a geological contract. I emailed you guys today about that. But I didn't see it on the agenda, but I just need some direction from the council on what you want me to do. That contract's not for a lot of money, but it includes terms that generally we would not, the city attorney that I would not say are appropriate. But I don't know what the timing of that is, or if you want me to do with that.
Is that something that should be addressed now or wait until something proceeds? Apex.
So that would have been
Right.
Mayor company I speak, that would have been if you guys were going with SCH as contracting, that would have been part of that.
Okay.
So I think you should wait until you guys
Figure out what we're gonna
what
do.
you're doing.
And the auditor had mentioned whether to pull that or not, but because we hadn't made a decision on the apex. That was.
So I will not spend any more time with that. then.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Perfect.
And so anything else? I'm saying.
No, that's it.
So then we'll go on to the portfolios. The auditor had not received anything, so unless you have something now that you'd like to share.
I would have just something quick. I know the police department took part in a trunk or treat earlier. And just a reminder that Halloween is coming up. Kids are gonna be excited, running around. They probably aren't gonna be as diligent on looking both ways before they cross the street. Please just make sure, keep an eye out, drive safely, and hopefully everybody has a fun and safe Halloween.
Hopefully they find the fun clown that likes to chase kids on a little RC car in town, because that house is definitely fun. My kid gets a kick out of it. We have to stop at that one every single year. It's great.
And then they were. So I have a couple of things that made me think, I had a resident reach out to me that had listened in on the discussion we had on October 9th with voting on yards and the excitement, the beautification process, and had thought maybe we could send into the city pictures of the yards that have the Halloween decorations out and, you know, maybe put some of those on the website or Facebook or something like that. With just some community engagement.
Yeah,
So if anybody out there, or maybe not your neighbor's yards, but if you'd like to submit your own, then that might be an opportunity for us to share some nice positivity and build some community to fun. Then I have been asked to mention that, you know, it's been a little bit difficult to identify motions and what speakers are discussing things at the table when doing minutes. So maybe to help with that, if we could please follow the Roberts rules by addressing all remarks to the chair, waiting for acknowledgement and then speaking. So then that just kind of allows for a little more organization and for minute taking to see who is saying what and identifying that. So next, we've had nearly 1,000 phone numbers that have opted into that text my gov. Those that haven't yet, maybe, you know, consider doing that. I've received multiple texts and it's a great way to communicate, and deputy auditor, that was a wonderful find because I think it's been really something positive for communication.
Mayor, do we have that online too, so people can click on it or access it too?
Yes, you would actually go to the city of Lincoln's webpage. And you opt in there, all you need is your phone number. So thank you for mentioning that. Again, we had a lot of discussion lately, ways that we can serve the community. You know, we've got planning and zoning, board of adjustments, economic development, Lincoln community, or tree board. So please consider joining or signing up, filling out a citizen interest form. We'd love to have you participate in some of that. I did ask the auditor to include this municipal burrowing rodent control policy. I have received a lot of contact from people concerned about gophers and how they're, you know, jumping the street now. They're going into more of those residential areas. It's just getting worse. And now we've got wolves. And, you know, are we at a point now where we should have a policy in place? At what point do we go and, you know, hire an exterminator? I don't, you know, how all that works. I have a policy that was just drafted. It hasn't gone to our public works director for review or anything like that. But I would, I had talked to the park district, the board president there too. There's a concern. He has reached out for the parks specifically to the zoo. You know, because they have a lot of that activity over there too, and had some recommendations. But I think before we can do anything, we have to have a policy, or, you know, some guidelines for the city to use. So again, if you would take a look at it and add, now we're gonna remember how our kids felt at home with the work to do, but I know that this is a really big issue and it doesn't go away. And if we could hire somebody to come in, you know, here we have compliance with century code is listed in here. And who would you want at what stage? And I don't have any of you heard from anybody about the gophers? And
If I may, I haven't heard much as far as like city property, but I have seen a lot of complaints on social media, et cetera, that on private properties, especially like undeveloped lots and stuff like that. And I don't know, this kind of school area, stuff like that, where people complain about rodents. Would something like this? And if I'm not mistaken, we set like a policy, that would be specifically to city property, would it not?
It would, but I think that if the effect of having somebody come in and say, these are things that we can do to limit it or reduce the population, then that would reduce the population in the residential areas also. So I don't know if we can legally go onto private land. That would be an attorney or a legal discussion.
Guessing that'd be part of.
I think it was.
City's ordinance.
Right. Probably, that would be.
Oh, you're asking me to, they're on the spot, give you an opinion about roads.
Well, if that would be part of that nuisance, because that would be residential nuisance as far as what we're working on right now, but it would something that the city, you know, I don't know if we can do something on private, the city could do something on private land, or if it would have to be city owned to where it would be just the parks or just easements and hopefully then trickle down into the.
Is it, it might depend on when you say do something,
Spray.
I think it might depend on what that something is, but.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Certainly if somebody is maintaining their property in such a way that. There's an infestation of rodents on their property. At some point, the city might have the ability to go in under a nuisance theory. I don't know whether or not you can establish that authority under ordinance or whether you have to go and seek some kind of court. I mean, in all of the random things you could ask me, I don't know the answer to this one off the top.
I'll give you an example. So over in one of the parks, you know, there are quite a few gophers. Every year, there is activity to reduce the population. Now those, they've crossed Lincoln Road and they're going into maybe some of the housing, the residential areas. So they've crossed the fence type of thing. So if, and of course that is specific to the park district, but then that also trickles into the rest of the city, and it's not like you can put up that road sign and say the gophers here. So,
That'd be super effective.
right, it would, yeah.
I mean, I think, Madam Mayor, I think the issue is going to be if the landowner is like, yeah, I don't want him here, come help me, right? And that's one set of circumstances. The other set of circumstances was when the landowner is feeding them. And because they, you know, they feed all of the animals, right? And then that's a different, like, that's a different set of issues, so. But again, I don't know that we need to reinvent the wheel on this. My guess is that cities of Fargo or West Fargo, it's more to address this in their codes, and that's a good starting spot.
And when I had looked at this, that's exactly what I did, is looked at what other municipalities do. And then, you know, some of those are traps, fumigants, rodent signs, and extermination. So, but I'm not advocating for that. So, but some of the things that we can do, you know, on our properties specifically is that, to reduce the habitat. Irrigation, remove debris, maintaining turfs and things like that, and that'll happen through our beautification process. So we'll continue on with that. If the city council, if you are interested in working on this a little bit, we can go forward.
That's for sure. And like, Councilman Bjorn said, say that 10 times fast. There are quite a few around the school. My youngest has even made a couple comments that she likes watching them dig holes outside the window while in class.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, one final thing. We are going into the holiday season. you know, we've got Halloween, then we got Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so I thought it, maybe we could discuss this real quick. Christmas is on a Thursday this year. And we work that half day, well, not we, they work that half a day on Friday, the city works that half a day on Friday. Because it is a skeleton crew, what are the thoughts on possibly being closed that Friday to allow for everyone to continue their Christmas celebration?
That sounds great.
I don't have
objections.
no objections.
Right, so we'll just put that on that Friday, December 26th, that's, and Public Works will be closed. Perfect, so. All right, anything else before council? Then it is 7:50, we stand adjourned.
But in the city, constantly.